Hey, welcome to the video. My name is Kevin, and I've been collecting cards for many years now, and I wanted to share some thoughts on the hobby and help you get started with your own collection. One of the first things I would ask yourself is, why do you want to start? Like, what's your motivation in entering this hobby? This reason is pretty important because once you find out what you want out of the hobby, you can start catering your collection to align with your goals. We can use me as an example, like what motivates me to collect cards. Well, what makes me the happiest about this hobby is being able to buy cards from my childhood that I never got to own at the time, and I get to experience this feeling of nostalgia and longing basically for simpler times. One point that I kind of want to drive home is, don't let this video or anyone in particular make you believe that there's a right or wrong way of collecting. Everyone has their reasons, so every and any reason is the right reason to start a collection or whatever cards you want to buy. Just, you gotta do you. This video is only meant to provide content on how I do things and some things to consider, just to get your brain going again for the purpose of starting a collection. I do recommend, watching either my videos or other people's videos on their collections just because it's fun and entertaining. But at the same time, if you want to do something a certain way, don't feel like it's a right or wrong thing to do. It's just the way that you want to do it, and feel free to do so. Once you know your motivation, the next question I would ask myself is, what type of cards or what kind of products do I want to collect? Do you want to collect raw cards? Maybe you want to get complete sets, or maybe you only want specific rarities of certain artworks? Or maybe you want to focus on only getting perfect PSA 10 cards, or even just sealed booster boxes. One thing I want to mention is I often feel like people forget that a collection doesn't need to have the most expensive or rare cards. Sometimes common or even cheaper cards are worth collecting. Just using again me as an example, I like to collect the raw cards. These are my favorite things because they're really easy to put in binders, and I like to, actually touch the physical card. And with the graded card, I don't have that, experience because again of the plastic. I like to be able to take the card out, change the sleeves, and really appreciate the artwork without any barrier or plastic barriers. Graded cards are, I feel like, what most people think about when they think about a collection, because there's this proper inspected card with a certificate of a company. And I guess those of you who don't know, raw cards are just the normal cards that you get out of basically a booster pack. There's nothing fancy to it. The contrary to that is graded cards, which is cards that you send out to a company that they properly inspected and give it a certificate to say, hey, this is what your card's condition is in. This makes it pretty easy for the community to, get a price gauge of that this specific card with this condition is this price. It kind of just standardizes some things in a sense. I feel when most people think of collections, they think of getting graded cards again because of that almost investment point of view. This is where I feel most of the hardcore collectors end up due to the standards again set by the community of what a high quality card actually is. But again, specifically for me, this takes away the nostalgia because it's, again, standardizing it. It's putting a stamp saying this is what your card is worth. For me, though, this type of grading makes it more of an investment per se. And again, this is just my surface level thoughts and opinions. It's neither right or wrong. It's just my personal preference when collecting. I don't like graded cards because it just makes it takes away from the nostalgia factor for me. Another thing that you could collect are complete sets. This is where you buy every single card in one set, you put it in a binder, you put it in however you want, and there you go. I'm actually doing this with all the EX series era sets. This is because this is when for me, these sets are the most nostalgic. I just love all these cards and I really want to own all the artworks. Sealed products are also another potential collecting opportunity. However, I think most people do invest in this stuff. It's a complete topic for another video, which we will be covering, but for the most part, I do like collecting some booster boxes here and there with certain types of artwork. Like if there's a Rayquaza tin or there's some Rayquaza artwork on a booster box, I do want to keep one of those products sealed, just because again, it's something nice to display on a countertop or bookshelf or something like that. And also, if you want to open it up 5-10 years from now and it becomes a little bit nostalgic, you got it right there. You can crack it open and have a great night. This is kind of a tip, but also a super hardcore collecting idea. If you want to collect single cards, I highly recommend you do not buy booster boxes because the probability of pulling the card you want is super low. However, it is really fun and genuine to only collect in a sense when buying booster boxes and sealed products, because that's how you, grow a collection in a genuine sense. And then you go and you trade cards, because again, it's a collectible trading game However, this gets really expensive, and I think for most people this just doesn't make any sense to do. I love the idea, but I don't think everyone has millions of dollars to spend trying to get the cards they want and collecting in that way. But it is a lot of fun to do because, again, it's going back to, for me specifically, going back to being a kid. And, you're only getting cards here and there from booster packs, and then you're trying to trade with your friends to get the cards you actually want. So now that you know what type of cards or products you want to buy, it's incredibly important to set a budget each month on how much you're willing to spend. This hobby gets expensive and addictive really quickly, Set realistic expense goals and be financially responsible. Just remember, this is a hobby and not investing. Don't confuse or supplement collecting with investing. Collecting is similar to investing, however the mindset is a little different. Understanding that a card's worth today might not have the same value in the future. It could be more, could be less, but you need to understand that risk. Although some elements overlap, collecting isn't really investing, and investing isn't really collecting, again, because of the mindset. I would separate that allotment if you do choose to invest in Pokemon or Pokemon related products. Again, stick to a budget, be financially responsible. It's a hobby. So now that you know what products and cards you want to buy, and you have a budget on how much you're willing to spend, where do you actually go to buy said product? I'm going to be rattling off a few different websites and such. However, the main thing I would have to say is eBay is probably your go-to. I think using all of these websites in conjunction is probably the best option, but eBay for the final purchase of the product is probably going to be the best. At least from my experience, that is the best website to go to. Some of the best features about eBay specifically is these sellers usually have very clear pictures. There's a very broad market. There's so many different listings you can click on. You can also filter by sold listings to see what people actually paid for the card or product you're looking for right now. You can also go to accounts and see their feedback and recent transactions and see, is this actually a good seller? Can I actually get the card, or is this a scam? And also, if you're buying from eBay, that means you have an account and you're also building reputation with your account. So if you do want to sell in the future, you will be able to have, I guess, a little bit easier time again because you had that reputation. I've been trying to build my account for years, and it takes a lot, or not a long, but it takes a good amount of time. I rarely ever have problems on eBay, and if there is a problem, you can always message the seller and try to work things out. And if things escalate, eBay will come in and try to help out. I've only had that probably one time in my entire experience, and I've had probably 200-300 transactions on eBay. People will have different experiences, but for me, I have not had problems, and I find this to be a great website. The next up is Troll and Toad. Troll and Toad's pretty good. I go in here to buy a lot of bulk stuff, like bulk commons or uncommons if I'm not trying to buy like an older set. Or if I'm trying to buy like sleeves, I like this website. This website is pretty easy to check prices too. I like to scan, and you can very easily filter by the sets. For some reason though, Troll and Toad is always much more expensive, and I think that's due to it not being a marketplace in a sense. It's just one company, where eBay in particular is many sellers. It's not one specific company. TCG Player is also really great. This is where I go to check prices really easily and sort by card sets. Kind of similar to Troll and Toad, but TCG Player is a little bit more like eBay, but specifically for cards. I don't want to give TCG Player a bad rap because I've been on this website for a while and have bought probably 100 times on here. However, I've had a lot of bad experiences. Either sellers are not shipping cards, or they're showing up very late, or the conditions of the cards are not being listed correctly. And this website's fine for me for buying cards where I don't necessarily care about the quality of the card. But for collecting purposes, I do like my cards to, at least I like to know what I'm buying, and it's not just a wild guess. TCG Player has been, I guess, adapting, and they are showing some pictures now, but at the same time, it's just, I think eBay is just much better marketplace for this, or specifically for collecting. You can find cheaper cards per se on TCG Player, but again, the pictures are limited, and you don't know the exact quality of the card you're getting. The customer support on TCG Player though has been pretty good. Every time I've had an issue, they usually help me resolve it, if anything. But a lot of times I don't even bother, because if the card's like $5-10, I'll just take the hit if the card's in pretty bad condition. Social media is going to be the last one I'm going to bring up here. Particularly Instagram is the only one I've had experience with. It's really fun to, look at other people's collections and pictures and try to find a trade and work it out on social media through the messaging system. I've had both great and bad experiences. However, the bottom line is this is, again, a social media platform. It's not a website to buy cards. I know specifically like Instagram is kind of changing to sort of be a marketplace, but again, just be cautious, and I don't know what the future is of that. I've been scammed many times on Instagram, and I don't care to ever return and try to work out any deals. On the contrary though, being scammed and annoyed, it's fun to find collectors who also share the very similar taste in either the sets you're working on or the types of Pokemon that you're trying to collect with the cards. I mean, after all, Pokemon is a collectible and tradable card game, and the trading aspect is just something where it's just hard to do. The internet makes it a much easier place to trade cards. However, there's just people that take advantage of it, and it's kind of sad. There's definitely a lot more websites out there. However, these are the main 3, I guess, that I use in social media just to get some more ideas and just, again, get the brain going to see what other people are collecting and how they're displaying stuff. So now maybe you got some cards and you got all this other stuff lying around. Well, you got to actually protect it, right? Because if you just get some expensive card, you're really not going to want that thing laying in a shoebox or laying on the table. You want to make sure it's in pretty pristine condition. I'm going to give a quick rundown of some of the products that I use and buy. These here are penny sleeves. These are probably the cheapest sleeves you can get. These aren't really the most ideal. They're good if you want to hold like 5 or 6 cards in them and throw them around. But for the most part, if you're going to get any penny sleeves, just go for the perfect fit. These are great for double sleeving. They're a really close fit on, again, they're supposed to be perfect fit to the card. So it's basically like the card doesn't even have a sleeve on it. These are great for double sleeving, which I highly encourage. After you get the base layer sleeve, I recommend getting some good quality sleeves. Dragon Shield or KMC have been my, I guess, go-to. More recently, KMC sleeves. But again, Dragon Shield's a great company. Ultra Pro also makes a little bit cheaper sleeves, but I do prefer the KMC or Dragon Shield over Ultra Pro. Recently, Ultra Pro sleeves have been stepping up their game, so I recommend experimenting, but if you just want to buy something and know it's good, KMC or Dragon Shield, you can't really go wrong. Recommend picking up some binders and binder sleeves. This is mostly if you want to buy raw cards and you want to have a way to organize them. This is one of my favorite ways to display the cards that I have. However, I don't think it's the safest. You definitely got to be careful with how you put the cards in these binders and also how you store the binders. Definitely not the most protective, but I do like the style of putting them in binders. I also recommend picking up some top loaders if you can. These are perfect, so you can double sleeve the cards and put the card in here, and it's like not indestructible, but it's pretty close. This is where I put my more expensive cards, where I really want them to be in good condition and have little worry about them getting damaged. I've been looking and meaning to buy like a Pelican case or some hard case to just have a solid place to put my cards, or at least the more expensive ones, and know with high certainty that if something happens, it's at least going to be somewhat safe in there. This is also great if you have to transport the cards or decks anywhere and they're expensive and you really don't want them getting damaged. This is a little bit more pricey, and for most people probably not worth it, but eventually if you're collecting for a while, you might want to upgrade to this. And then the last thing I recommend is boxes and tins. These are some really large boxes. These can hold, I think, like 1,000 or 1,500 cards. I usually just throw both commons and uncommons in here. It's a pretty easy way just to organize a bunch of stuff. Also, one thing to note, if you put top loaders in these boxes, they basically fit perfectly. You can get smaller boxes, and I usually use these for, I guess, more Magic. Like I put my Magic the Gathering cube in it and stuff like that. These are definitely something I would pick up. They're pretty cheap, and if you want to even make one yourself, you could probably even make it even cheaper. But usually your local LGSs will have these lying around. Just probably pick them up. So now that you got all your sleeved cards and your binders and your boxes, well, how do you actually go about organizing this? And this is something that I have not perfected yet, but it's something in the process. There's definitely millions of ways you can do this, and I'll just tell you kind of what I've been working on. Like mentioned before, all my bulk goes in those huge cardboard boxes. Those boxes are usually just support for my other cards. I like to keep my most expensive cards double sleeved and in top loaders. For me, this is great because if I wanted to take the card out, I can take the card out, look at it, touch it, feel it, but it also provides a lot of protection because we have the 2 sleeves as well as the top loader. All my sealed stuff is all over the place right now. I don't actually know what to do with it yet, so I usually just keep it in some boxes and stuff. If the cards aren't too expensive, I like to actually put it in a binder with pages dedicated to like themes. Like this one, this is my Rayquaza page. I also have some kawaii trainer arts that I'm working on in the back. That's just a side project. I do love the trainer arts, so I will be continuing that collection too, but that's more of a side mission. Right now though, my main goal is to collect all the EX series cards. I want all these sets and every card in the set. It's expensive and it's a process, but it's something I want to complete. I am working on dedicated binders for each set. However, again, this is a big project, it takes a long time and a lot of money, but that is my main goal for right now. Just some last things I want to mention. Just focus on enjoying the hobby and building a collection that you can appreciate. I see too often, even myself, comparing their collection or even themselves to others on the internet. This, again, it's a hobby, it's not a competition. It's fun to get ideas and see what others are doing, but don't compare what they have to what you have and make that either undermine you or your collection. Just get out there, have some fun, and build a collection that caters to your needs and goals. Also, make sure you have a budget so you don't throw yourself in a financial hole. This hobby gets expensive and addictive, just remember that. I do hope you enjoy the hobby for whatever reasons brought you here. For me, it's the nostalgia. It's so powerful, it takes me back to being a kid when everything was, I guess, more imaginative and I guess just simple. Stay tuned for some more Pokemon videos. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments. Hope to see you around. Take care.